It was March 2024 when I found the ad on Craigslist. Furnished apartment, 10th floor, amazing view. 800 month, available immediately. No questions, no guarantor. In a city where a decent place cost at least twice that, it seemed impossible. But I was desperate. I had lost my job as a graphic designer 3 months earlier. My savings were running out, and I had been sleeping on my friend Marcus's couch for 2 weeks. When he told me his girlfriend was moving in, I got the message. I called the number in the ad. The voice that answered was an older man's, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Ah, the apartment. Yes, it's still available. When can you come see it? Today, if possible. Perfect. Meridian Building, 1247 Elm Street. 10th floor, apartment 1003. I'll be there at 3 o'clock. The Meridian Building was one of those Art Deco constructions from the 1920s. All red brick with wrought iron details, imposing but clearly past its prime. The paint was peeling in several places, and some windows had cracks patched up with tape. The elevator was one of those old cage types, with a metal gate you had to close manually. It climbed slowly, groaning at every floor. When it reached the 10th, the lights flickered twice before stabilizing. The hallway was long and narrow, lit by buzzing fluorescent bulbs. The burgundy carpet was faded and stained in ways I preferred not to identify. Apartment 1003 was at the very end of the corridor. I knocked on the door 3 times. Slow footsteps approached from the other side, and I heard several locks being undone, at least 4 by the sound of it. The door opened to reveal a man who must have been around 60. Tall, thin, with gray hair slicked back and greenish-gray eyes that seemed to study my every move. He wore a black suit, well-tailored but clearly decades out of style. "You must be Daniel," he said, extending a bony hand. "I'm Mr. Kozlov, the landlord." The apartment was surprisingly spacious. A wide living room with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city. A small but functional kitchen. A bedroom with a double bed and an enormous built-in wardrobe. A bathroom with a clawfoot tub made of cast iron. But something about the decor was unsettling. The furniture was all old, not retro chic, but genuinely aged. The curtains were heavy, deep burgundy velvet. And there were portraits on the walls, stern faces of people in period clothing, all staring directly at whoever looked at them. "Do the furnishings stay?" I asked. "Everything stays, including the portraits. They are, let's say, part of the apartment's history." I walked over to the window. The view was truly incredible. I could see the entire stretch of the city, the river winding between the buildings, the mountains on the horizon. Why so cheap? The question slipped out before I could stop myself. Mr. Kozlov remained silent for a long moment, staring out the window. "Let's just say the apartment has peculiarities. Some previous tenants found it difficult to adjust." "What kind of peculiarities?" "Nothing you should worry about as long as you follow a few simple rules." He turned toward me, his eyes sharper now. "First, never open the bedroom curtains after 10 p.m. Second, if you hear music coming from the apartment above, don't investigate. Third, if someone knocks on your door after midnight, do not answer." I laughed nervously. "That sounds straight out of a horror movie." "Humor is good," he said, unsmiling. "You'll need it." I signed the lease right then and there. First and last month paid up front, no deposit. Mr. Kozlov handed me 3 keys, 2 for the locks on the door, and a third, smaller one, which he said was for emergencies. "What does this one open?" I asked. "I hope you'll never have to find out." I moved in the next day. Marcus helped me carry my few belongings. 2 suitcases of clothes, my laptop, some books, and my camera. Compared to the space available, I felt like a hermit. "Man, this place is amazing," Marcus said, admiring the view. "How did you get it for this price?" "Long story," I replied, not wanting to get into Mr. Kozlov's rules. He left around 7 p.m., and I was alone in the apartment for the first time. The silence was almost oppressive. At Marcus's place there was always noise, television, music, street traffic. Here, 10 floors above the world, the silence was absolute, or almost. Around 9 p.m., while I was unpacking clothes in the bedroom, I heard something. A rhythmic sound like someone lightly tapping on the wall. "Tap, tap, tap." "Tap, tap, tap." I froze and listened. The sound came from the wall that bordered the neighboring apartment. Maybe it was just someone hanging a picture or something. At 10 p.m., I remembered the first rule. Never open the bedroom curtains after 10. I looked at the heavy burgundy velvet curtains that completely covered the window. It was tempting to peek outside. The city view at night must have been spectacular. But something in Mr. Kozlov's voice when he gave me the rules made me hesitate. There had been a seriousness in his tone that didn't feel like a joke. I left the curtains closed. The first week passed quietly. During the day, the apartment was perfect. Plenty of natural light, silence to work on my freelance projects, an inspiring view. But at night, there were always little noises. The tap, tap, tap on the wall became regular, always starting at 9 p.m. and stopping exactly at midnight. Sometimes I heard footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate, as if someone were pacing back and forth. On Thursday of that first week, I heard music. It was about 11:30 p.m. when it started. A soft waltz played on a piano, clearly coming from the apartment above. Beautiful, melancholic music. But there was something unsettling about it, as if it were being played on a slightly out-of-tune piano. I remembered the second rule. If you hear music from the apartment upstairs, don't investigate, but curiosity is a stubborn thing. I stepped into the hallway and climbed the stairs to the 11th floor. The corridor was identical to the 10th's, but darker. Only one bulb worked, flickering at the far end. The music was clearer there. It came from apartment 1103, directly above mine. I approached the door. The music stopped abruptly. I stood there for several minutes, waiting for it to start again. Nothing. When I went back to my apartment, I noticed something strange. The door to 1003 was ajar. I was absolutely certain I had locked it. I hurried inside and bolted every lock. The music upstairs resumed instantly, as if it had been waiting for me to return. It was the following Saturday when I met Eleanor. I was coming back from the grocery store when she stepped out of apartment 1001, right next to mine. She was a woman in her 40s with brown hair tied in a low bun, wearing a floral dress that looked like it belonged in the 1940s. She was carrying a tray covered with a checkered cloth. "You must be the new neighbor," she said with a warm smile. "I'm Eleanor. I live in 101, Daniel. Nice to meet you. I baked chocolate cookies. Thought I'd share some with the new neighbor." She extended the tray. The smell was incredible. "That's very kind, thank you." I took the tray. "Would you like to come in for coffee?" Her smile faltered for an instant. "Oh, I can't. I have commitments. But I hope you enjoy the cookies." She turned to leave but stopped. "Daniel, may I give you some advice?" "Of course. The rules Mr. Kozlov gave you. They exist for a reason. They're not superstition, they're protection." "Protection against what?" Eleanor glanced around the hallway, as if checking that we were alone. "This building has history, a sad history. In the 1940s, there was an incident on the 11th floor. An entire family. Since then, some things aren't as they should be." "What kind of incident?" Charles Blackwood was a composer. He lived in 1103 with his wife and 2 young children. Short on money, under pressure to compose, struggling with mental health issues that weren't treated back then. She paused, looking up toward the ceiling. One December night, the neighbors heard music playing late into the night. A sad, repetitive waltz. The next morning, they found them all dead. My stomach clenched. How? Charles had poisoned the family with carbon monoxide, then hanged himself. But he left the piano playing automatically. It was one of those mechanical pianos. The music went on for 3 days before anyone discovered the bodies. And you believe that? He's still there? Eleanor looked at me with a seriousness that made my skin prickle. I don't believe Daniel, I know. I've lived here for 15 years. I've seen things, heard things. In apartment 103, she hesitated. What about 1003? Every tenant in 1003 either leaves in less than 3 months or... She didn't finish the sentence. Or what? Or becomes part of the building's history. She hurried toward the elevator, leaving me standing alone in the hallway with a tray of cookies and a knot in my stomach. That night, I ate 3 cookies while researching the Meridian building. I found a newspaper article from December 1947. Family tragedy at the Meridian. Composer kills family and himself. The photo showed Charles Blackwood. A thin man, dark hair, hollow eyes. There was something disturbingly familiar about his face. It was only when I looked at the portraits on the living room wall that I understood why. Charles Blackwood was in one of the portraits. For 3 days, I avoided looking at the portraits. When I had to pass through the living room, I kept my eyes fixed on the floor or the view from the window. But it was impossible to completely ignore the sensation of being watched. On Tuesday night, I was editing photos on my laptop when the music started earlier than usual. 9:15 p.m., and the melancholy waltz was already echoing through the ceiling. But this time it was different, louder, more urgent. And then I noticed something that froze my blood. It wasn't just piano anymore. There were voices, whispering voices accompanying the melody. I closed the laptop and listened carefully. The voices were indistinct, but they had a childlike quality. Like children humming along with the music, the tap, tap, tap on the wall began. But it was different too, faster, more insistent. That's when I heard the knock on the door. I glanced at the clock. 9:47 p.m. Too early for the third rule. Don't answer after midnight. But something about the knocking made me hesitate. It wasn't normal knocking. It was weak, as if whoever was knocking didn't have much strength. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. The knocking continued. "Who's there?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Silence. The music upstairs stopped abruptly. Then I heard a voice, childlike, muffled, as if coming from far away. "Daddy said we should come play." My heart raced. I stumbled back from the door, tripping over a chair. We don't want to stay upstairs alone anymore. Two voices now. Two children, please. It's so cold here. I ran to the bedroom and locked the door behind me. I sat on the bed, trembling. The voices went on for several minutes, always whispering, always begging to come in. Then, total silence. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the bed, my back to the window covered by the curtains, staring at the bedroom door. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps in the apartment. Slow, deliberate, walking through the living room. Someone or something was inside my apartment. The footsteps stopped in front of the bedroom door. The doorknob began to turn slowly. "It's locked," I whispered to myself. "It's locked." The doorknob stopped turning. Then I heard something that almost made me scream. Fingernails scratching against the wood of the door. Long, deliberate scratches, as if someone were trying to dig a hole through it. When the sun rose, the noises stopped. I waited until 8 a.m. before leaving the bedroom. The front door was locked, all the bolts in place. There were no signs of forced entry, but on the bedroom door there were fresh scratches in the wood, deep, recent, and on the living room floor, small, muddy footprints. Children's footprints. The next morning, I went looking for Eleanor. I found her in the lobby, checking the mail. "I need to talk to you," I said bluntly. She glanced around nervously. "Not here. Let's go to the laundry room in the basement. It's safer." The laundry room was a cold, damp space in the building's basement. Only one machine was working, churning heavily in a corner. "What happened?" Eleanor asked. I told her everything. The voices, the footsteps, the scratches on the door. She listened in silence, her face growing paler with every word. "It's happening earlier this time," she murmured. "Usually it takes at least a month." "Eleanor, what's happening in this building?" She let out a long sigh. "The truth is more complicated than I told you. Charles Blackwood didn't just kill himself. He made a pact. He studied the occult, was obsessed with the idea of immortality. On the night he killed his family, he was attempting a ritual." "What kind of ritual?" "Spiritual anchoring. The idea was that if he died under very specific circumstances, in the right place, he could bind his consciousness to the physical world. And in a way, it worked." Eleanor walked over to a small window that looked out onto the alley behind the building. But the ritual didn't go as planned. Instead of just him being trapped, the entire family was. And they're hungry. Hungry for life, for vital energy. An apartment 1003? It's like a trap. Charles discovered he could feed his family using the energy of the living. 1003 is directly below 1103. There's a connection, a bridge between the apartments. Why does Mr. Kozlov keep renting it out? Eleanor hesitated. Because he has to. It's part of the pact. Charles can't rest until he finishes what he started. And Mr. Kozlov, she stopped as if she had already said too much. What about Mr. Kozlov? Daniel, you need to leave. Today. Right now. Answer the question. What about Kozlov? Eleanor looked at me with eyes full of fear. Kozlov is Russian for goat, but it also means he's not just the landlord. He's the keeper. He keeps the ritual alive. And he's been doing it for 77 years. That's impossible. He'd be over 100. Exactly. The washing machine stopped abruptly, leaving the laundry room in total silence. Eleanor, how many tenants from 1003 have died? They didn't die, Daniel. They joined the family. If you don't leave today, you'll find out what that means. That's when we heard footsteps coming down the stairs. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Eleanor went pale. He knows we're talking. Mr. Kozlov appeared in the doorway of the laundry room. But something was different. His eyes, once gray-green, now glowed with a yellowish light, and there was a strange smell in the air, like wilted flowers and rusted metal. Eleanor, he said, his voice deeper than I remembered. You know you must not interfere. He has the right to know the truth, she answered, though her voice carried fear. The truth? Kozlov laughed, a dry, unpleasant sound. The truth is that Daniel is already part of the family. From the moment he signed the contract. What do you mean? I asked. Kozlov stepped closer, and I could see his skin had a strange texture, like old paper. The contract was not just a lease, my boy. It was an agreement of transfer. You offered your life energy in exchange for housing, and Charles is hungry. Eleanor placed herself between me and Kozlov. There's still time. He can break the contract. How? The third key, she said quickly. The one he told you was for emergencies. It opens a compartment in apartment 1103. Inside is Charles's original contract, the document that started it all. If you burn it, Kozlov roared, literally roared like an animal. His form began to distort, growing taller, thinner. Run, Eleanor shouted. We bolted for the stairs. Behind us came the sound of something massive breaking, probably the washing machine. We climbed 2 steps at a time, with Kozlov, or whatever he was, bellowing behind us. We reached the lobby. Eleanor shoved me toward the elevator. Go to 1103, find the compartment. Burn the contract. And you? I'll try to distract him. The elevator doors closed. Through the metal grate, I saw Kozlov emerge from the basement door. He no longer looked human. He was too tall, too thin, his eyes glowing like yellow embers. Eleanor shouted something in a language I didn't recognize. Kozlov stopped and turned to her. It was the last thing I saw before the elevator reached the 10th floor. I ran into my apartment and grabbed the 3rd key. Then I hurried up to the 11th floor. The hallway was darker than ever, and the stench of decay was strong in the air. The door to 1103 stood open. I entered cautiously. The apartment had the same layout as mine, but it felt frozen in time. Furniture from the 1940s, peeling wallpaper, and a grand piano in the center of the room. Dark stains, almost certainly dried blood, covered its keys. I searched for anything the key might open. Drawers, cupboards, hidden compartments, nothing. Then I saw it. A small keyhole on the side of the piano. The key fit perfectly. Inside was a compartment lined with red velvet, holding a yellowed document covered in strange symbols and signed clearly in blood. I pulled my lighter from my pocket. My hands trembled so badly it took 3 tries to spark the flame. That's when I heard the voice behind me. Don't do it, Daniel. I turned. Charles Blackwood was there. Not a ghostly apparition, but solid, real. He wore the same suit from the newspaper photo, now stained and torn. His eyes were empty sockets, and when he spoke, I saw he had no tongue. You don't understand. If you burn the contract, my family will vanish forever. My children, they need me. They've been dead for 77 years. Death is only a transition. Here we can be together eternally. Other figures began to appear. A woman in a 1940s dress, clearly Charles's wife, and 2 children, a boy and a girl, with pale faces and hollow eyes. Daddy said you'll play with us. The girl whispered, forever and ever. The boy added. I held the flame close to the document. Stop, Charles shouted, his voice echoing as though from a deep tunnel. Join us willingly and I will spare Eleanor. Destroy the contract, and she will become part of the family in your place. I looked at Charles, then at the document in my hands. The lighter's flame danced dangerously close to the paper. Why, Eleanor? I asked. Why not kill me? Charles smiled, revealing rotten teeth. Because you're already marked. The contract ensures that, but she has knowledge. She knows how to destroy us. She's more useful as an ally than an enemy. And if I just leave the building? Impossible. The contract binds you here. You can try, but you will always return. The need to come back will grow until it becomes unbearable. You've already felt it. He was right. In the past few days, even when I left to buy food, I felt an increasing anxiety to return. I thought it was because I liked the apartment, but now I understood it was something far more sinister. How many like me have there been? 17 in the last 77 years. Some resisted longer than others. but all eventually joined us. The ghostly family stepped closer. I could feel the cold radiating from them, and there was something hypnotic in their hollow eyes. "It doesn't have to be bad," Charles's wife whispered. "Down here you can stay with us. Play music, play with the children. No worries, no pain. No life," I added. "Life is overrated," said Charles. "Full of disappointments, losses, suffering. Here we offer eternal peace." I looked again at the document. At the bottom, something was written in English. "The bond is broken only with voluntary sacrifice or destruction of the original agreement." Voluntary sacrifice. "Charles," I said, keeping my voice steady, "what if I offer something in exchange? Not my life, but my vital energy, willingly, in return for Eleanor's freedom and the freedom of all future tenants?" He looked intrigued. "Go on. The original ritual failed because it was done with violence, with death. But what if it were fueled voluntarily? A little vital energy, freely given, would be more powerful than an entire life stolen by force." Charles glanced at his family, then back at me. "You would give part of your soul willingly?" "A small part. Enough to sustain you, but not to kill me. In exchange, you release this place. No more deceptive contracts, no more victims. And if I refuse?" I brought the flame even closer to the paper. "Then I risk it all and burn this contract right now." The silence stretched for long seconds. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding. Finally, Charles nodded. "I accept. But how can I be sure you'll keep your word?" "The same way I can trust you. Mutual trust and terrible consequences if either side fails." Charles extended a spectral hand. "Then we have an agreement." I hesitated only a moment before shaking his hand. The cold was instant and overwhelming, like plunging into icy water. I felt something being drawn out of me, not painful, but undeniable, as if a small piece of my essence had been pulled away. When he released me, the entire family seemed a little more solid, a little more alive. "It is done," Charles said. "The building is free. But remember, our part of the deal must be honored once a month." "Understood." I went down to the 10th floor on shaky legs. Eleanor was waiting in my apartment, bruised but alive. "Did you do it?" she asked. "I did, but not the way we expected." That was 6 months ago. I still live in apartment 1003. The rent is now $1,200, a fair price for the market. Mr. Kozlov, well, he vanished that same night. All they found was a pile of old clothes in the lobby, as if he had simply disintegrated. Eleanor became the new manager of the building. The place has completely changed. New tenants have moved in, normal families, students, young professionals. The hallway was repainted. The flickering fluorescent lights were replaced with LEDs, and there are plants on the windowsills. Apartment 1103 remains empty. Eleanor says she'll turn it into a community space, maybe a library or a game room. Once a month, usually on the new moon, I go up there. Charles and his family appear, more solid than ghosts, but still clearly not alive. I offer my hand. They take a bit of my vital energy, and then vanish until the following month. It's strange, but not painful. It's like donating blood. You feel that something was taken, but you recover quickly, and they've changed too. The children no longer have that empty, ravenous look. They play with each other, giggling softly. Charles's wife sometimes hums cheerful melodies. And Charles, he still plays the piano, but now it's beautiful music, melancholic but not desperate. I think in a way I freed them as much as they freed me. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. If maybe I should have just burned the contract and risked the consequences. But then I see the happy families in the building, hear children running through the hallways during the day, and I know it was worth it. Eleanor sometimes asks if I regret it. Never, I always answer. And it's true, because I discovered something important that night. Sometimes courage isn't about fighting monsters. Sometimes it's about finding a way for everyone to live or exist in peace. And on quiet nights, when the soft music drifts down from the 11th floor, I don't feel fear. I feel completeness, as if I've found my place in the world, even if that place means sharing my soul with ghosts once a month. Some stories don't have traditional happy endings, but they do have the right endings. And sometimes, that's enough.